2018 Ducati SuperSport S. Let's ride it, let's talk about it, let's enjoy it, and let's put some gas in it and get this thing on the road.
Get up, get down. Get up, get down. Get up, get down. The bass and sound. Get up, down. The bass and sound. Get up, get down. The bass and sound. Get up, down. The bass and sound. Get up, down. Get up, down. The bass and sound. Get up, down. The bass and sound. Get up, down. The bass and sound. Get up, down with the bass and sound.
All right, let's hop off this bike real quick and give it a little chit chat here. 2018 Ducati SuperSport S. This is actually the first Ducati I have ever ridden, which is pretty cool. I've pretty much ridden Jap bikes because that's all my friends, you know, own or know, because these are on the higher end of motor vehicles. So you got to think about it. You know, you've got your Japanese bikes. Those are kind of like your Lexuses and GMCs and, you know, your high-end Chevys and, you know, maybe your, I don't know what else you can put in that category, to be completely honest. BMWs, maybe. But then you got like this. This is like the Ferrari of motorcycles, in my opinion. You know, you look at it and you're like, wow, factory bike with Öhlins, Brembos, single-sided swing arm, electronics package out the wazoo, trellis frame. This is a V pattern or L shaped engine. You know, V4 as the Panigale has it, but this is they call it an L twin. And the engine in this, since we're speaking about it, is kind of a mix between the Hyper Motard engine and, I can't say it, but the Torstretta, something like that. But this is 937 cc's L twin, which is really cool. It's got that really good V4 grunt sound, V grunt as they would call it. It's got that nice throaty feel to it. Very slender, very narrow. You know, you can look at it here and the side panels actually come out pretty far as opposed to the bike. The bike is real narrow. It doesn't even need to be that far, but for aesthetics, for everything to look normal, I think that's why maybe the plastics are that far out. Chain driven, 6-speed, obviously gearbox, quick shifter up and down. I'm telling you, this is the second bike I've ridden with a quick shifter up and down, and it is so nice. The auto blipper works really cool. Fun fact, while we're up at the front, this has 50 millimeters of adjustability, which is fancy. I don't know why you would really need that, but it is what it is. It is really cool. Blinkers built into the side mirrors. You look at it from the front, has that Ducati Panigale look on the front with that nice little nose. It doesn't have the LED headlights. It's got the LED strip, but it's got regular halogen bulbs, and I'll actually turn it on. So there's the LED V nose that Ducati is very known for. This bike, it is a 2018 used model. This is currently at Northeast Georgia Motorsports on Highway 53 in Houston. Address is here. They are selling this bike for $12,999, and this is an absolute steal for this motorcycle. For what it is, the package, you can't beat it. It is just such a good bike. Now, again, I'll provide a link to, if I can, Ducati's website that's got more in-depth specs about this bike. But the biggest thing about this bike, the key takeaways, is this bike is in its own category. It's not a sport bike, right? Like your Panigale, ZX10, CBR 1000, S1000, bikes like that. This is not super bike, sport bike, right? It's a super sport, and it's in the mix between like a sports touring and a super sport, right? So the biggest key takeaways is look at the handlebars or the controls. clip-ons. Clip-ons are up top, so you got a nice up high position. The footrests, they're actually lower. You know, I think ideally normal sport bike resets, maybe about in this area possibly, these have been redesigned to be lower. You've got a nice wide, I can never say this word either, so much fancy things on this bike, I can't say them, Alcantara, whatever. Covered seat, this is really nice, it's really good, and again, like I said, it's nice and wide, nice and comfy. Olin suspension, front and rear, so you still have that sports aspect of it, that sports handling and performance. Again, it's not super wide like a touring bike or sport touring. Think like FC10, Z900, they do have a little bit of a width on them as far as like the tank goes, but this is really slender. You've got an LCD TFT, really simple, really straightforward, nothing too crazy. You've got the real clean setup here. Looks like, you know, you've got your Brembo master cylinder to your Brembo brakes. You've got a regular cable clutch, which is weird. I think with all these extra things that this bike has, Ducati would have threw in a hydraulic just because Ducati goes over the top on everything, but it's not a big deal. I love a good cable clutch. I can really honestly never tell the difference between either or, you know, to be completely honest. Bike's fitted with electronics, got your ABS, got your quick shifter, obviously you got your sport modes or your rider modes, you got urban, sport, and touring, and then you've got DTC, which is Ducati traction control. So a little bit of a walk around with this bike. Again, there is no other bike in this category. Ducati has kind of just made their own. It seems like it's more close to like your sports bike, right? ZX10, S1000, but it's in between that and your Z900 FC10. I would almost say, think of this like a KTM Super Duke with full fairings. That's the best way I can describe this bike. It's just really tough to put a label on this because Ducati has done such a good job of making this bike very unique, and I love the single-sided swing arm. It's just something that you see from the future. It's so beautiful. But enough about that. Let's go ahead and ride this bike, take it for a little spin, tell you how it rides, tell you how it feels. Again, won't go over too many specs, but we'll just basically talk about how this bike feels in between your legs. So just kind of messing around with the electronics on this bike. You know, if you want to adjust the rider mode, you hit enter and you cycle between sport, touring, and urban. We're going to leave it on sport just because I want to feel the raw power of this bike per se. Just feel that nice grunty low end. Ducati traction control set at 3, and then ABS is at 2. I don't really know how to change those, to be completely honest. I've messed with all the controls over here and I just can't get it to change. I don't know what it is about it, which is kind of weird. And right off the bat, I haven't, like I said, I've never ridden a Ducati or a L style, V style engine, so it's really raw, just nasty, right? They use that term all the time with bikes, like it's really nice or really mean. This one's really mean, and it sounds amazing. I know this is still the stock exhaust on this thing, which is crazy to comprehend that, you know, this bike sounds the way it does with the stock exhaust. It's pretty awesome. Quick shifter's really smooth. I've noticed on the ZX6 it's got a little bit of a lag in between shifts. It's like it cuts the spark or fuel a little too long. Just kind of putting on this bike, it's got a lot of low grunt and torque, but it really doesn't like anything below 3 grand. The front end seems a little heavy. It feels really heavy and sluggish. It doesn't feel super sluggish or slow at speed, but slower speeds it feels a little nah. Speaking of which, the ergonomics are super nice. Normally you'd be way over here, right, hunched over, but you're sitting upright, which is odd on a style or a caliber of this bike. I really do appreciate this. And you would think, what's the point in buying a sports bike if you're not going to be in an aggressive riding position? Well, it's nice, I'm not gonna lie, and it really takes the perfect package. Whew. Lots of nice little grunt there. The rear sets are really nice. You're really relaxed. It's a neutral riding position, which is comfy. Can easily see myself riding this bike a very long distance. With it having that L-twin 936cc, it's a lot of bike and a lot of motor, but it doesn't really get out of hand or get away from you, which is super nice. It's not that scary. And you look at this bike and you're like, oh, it's a sport bike configuration. It's kind of nice downshifting this bike. It only makes about 120 horsepower, which is very comparable to a 600cc, but the difference is you don't have to rev this thing out to get the 120 horsepower. It's fairly lower, if you will, whereas on a 600 you're way up in the RPM, like 15,000. This thing, you're under 10. You got to give these Brembo brakes a good run. I've rode a Super Duke 1290 and it felt very similar to this. The front end felt a little lighter. It didn't feel as sluggish as this did. Now the Super Duke had a wider tank, and this is just really slender and narrow. Had the same sound, same grunt, or a similar, I'll say. I won't say the same. Corner entry or mid corner, this bike feels kind of weird. It just feels heavy. I don't know how else to describe it. It's really cool. You get somewhat of that same, ooh, this bike's hot, it's warm. You get that somewhat of that same Ducati styling. As I look in the back of that truck, you got that Ducati V-nose, and you get that Panigale look, right? That SuperSport look, and it looks really cool. But you don't have to pay the price of a house. Pay the price of a house, yeah, pretty much. You also get that unique trellis frame, that red frame that'll poke out. It's just something about it. The engine becomes a weight bearing brace, I think that's what they call it. So it really does contribute to the way the bike handles and performs, corners, things like that. The Z900, Z650, they've got trellis frames, which I really liked. The Super Duke trellis frame, I enjoy a trellis frame. But that just shows you the engineering capabilities of this bike, of Ducati in general. And Ducati's able to bring that, into more an affordable market, I guess. This bike, I would imagine being, marketed more towards your cruiser, but yet you want something that'll perform. And this is a popular market. The sports touring, which this bike is kind of not in, it's a popular market. You can ride long distance on these bikes, but yet you can ride aggressively. And if you know what you're doing, you can hang with sport bikes. I mean, there's just as much performance in those bikes as there is sports touring, and comparing that to a regular SuperSport. Oh. Bike is really fun. You just don't expect that type of performance out of a bike like this, and when you do get that type of performance, it gives you that really ear-to-ear grin, kind of like a little Grom or Z125, right? When you ride one of those, it just surprises you. I kind of want to try the rear brake ABS. You don't even hear it lock up. Wow. That's impressive, actually. It skids a little bit. I've noticed there's not a lot of pulsating in the lever. Some ABS levers, you'll feel it pulsate, and that one really didn't do it. It kept the same amount of pressure, which was nice, and I could hear it skid just a little bit, and then it released the pressure, and obviously it's modulating the whole time it's doing that. So I mean, that's nice. It's every time I hop on a bike with ABS, I like to know how that ABS feels on the rear brake, because it's a lot easier doing the rear brake than the front brake, and you can kind of see what it'll do. So that's really nice. Yep, these Brembos are nice. I know when I rode that ZX10, I complained about the Brembos on that bike, and it was just because it didn't have a really good follow through. This bike does. It's got a really smooth bite, and then it just keeps pinching down harder and harder until it stops, and it's really nice. It does have a good grab. It's got the Brembo master cylinder. Got big, I think like 320 or 340 millimeter disc floating rotors. So you definitely have a good sense of of confidence in the brakes, which is nice. And I can't tell you how important that is on a bike like this. Just that low end torque. They say like 80 to 90% of this bike's torque is available once you hit like 3,000 RPMs, which I don't know how true that is to being. And then your highway or interstate cruising speed, which is 70, you're chilling at a comfortable 4,000 to 5,000 RPMs nicely. And the wind that's coming off of this, you know, it's not terrible, it's not super bad, because you're nice and comfy. Even with you sitting upright, it's not, you know, knocking you off, pulling you off the handlebars, which, you know, you would think it would do. Seat, again, is really comfortable. It's got this nice little curve up, so it hugs you, right? So when this torque kicks in and it's pulling away with you, it cups you. It's really a nice little, you know, little cup. Holds your boot in place. We talk about the comfortability of a bike and the rideability and stuff like that, and this is by no means a beginner bike, like, at all. Could a beginner ride this? Sure. I wouldn't recommend it. This bike has got way too much. I would have to say, for popping my Ducati cherry, this is really nice. Maybe one day I'll get on a Panigale. Thanks again for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this first ride video on this Ducati SuperSport S. Again, I like to keep it very simple, very basic, very just not overdone, because I don't want you to get lost in a 20-minute review, and I just want to give you what you need to know about how the bike sits, rides, feels, and what to expect when you hop on one. So be sure to head over to Northeast Georgia Motorsports. Again, they have this bike in their showroom for $12,999. You just cannot beat a bike like this for that price, and you get the performance of a Ducati. You get the Ducati name, which is great. So if you guys have any other questions about this bike, leave a comment down below in the description, or in the comment box per se. Head on over to Northeast Georgia Motorsports and check this bike out for yourself. Take it for a spin, because I promise you it'll be a hard time trying to get out of the dealership with this bike. It is just super nice, super fun to ride. I mean, I could feel like I could take a trip up to the tail of the Dragon, which is, you know, 2 to 3 hours away from me, comfortably, very easy. I could do this and not be fatigued, not be wore out, not be super strung out. So this bike is, again, like I said, it's in its own category, and there's nothing else like it on the market. Ducati has, once again, redefined the motorcycle market by coming out with this. You know, its brother without the fairings is the Hyper Motard, which I have a feeling I may have the opportunity to ride next. Who knows? That's all I got for this video, guys. Again, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to get notifications when I do more first rides and simple vlogs. So ride safe, have fun, and we'll see you guys on the next one.